If you didn't talk to anyone and only watch the news, you would think that everyone in this country hates each other. And it's just not the case at all, as evidenced by the first hour of this discussion. There's been a lot of consensus amongst the four of you. So why do you guys think that is?
I definitely say, I guess we can. I would think we would all agree on this that there's a lot of, especially with the mainstream media, there's a lot of rhetoric and there's a lot of narratives going around and agendas that they seem to be pushing, and I think that's one of the reasons that's that's caused a lot of division in this country is the media because they paint one side one way and the other does the same thing and vice versa, and it just causes this massive rift within our society and these different cultures and these different groups of people. And I think a big thing for me, there needs to be a lot of common ground that needs to be found on both sides, whether it be discovering the truth, what are the actual facts. I think people need to actually sit down and kind of see it from the one truthful objective side, and that's the objective side of reality. That's my personal my perspective on it. And yeah, I would just kind of stand by just kind of seeing the objective reality of things and not just kind of believing what you see on TV or what you hear on social media, because those are heavily influenced by a whole different amount of constituents. And I think it's just really important that people know what the truth is and how they interpret it. So
Devin?
Basically what Will said, like wherever, anytime you hear a story, you're going to hear one person's side, the other person's side, and then somewhere in the middle is the truth. But I think, especially with this administration, out the gate, it was fake news this, fake news that. And I think once that rhetoric started to come around, that's when people really started to doubt how the media was shaping their information on things. Now we can all say, like, even before this administration, everybody was like, well, you can see how certain things get twisted or certain facts get flopped around. But you could definitely use these past 4 years as a catalyst and understanding of how you can take one story and you can hear two different sides of it. Going back to the Charlottesville riots, it started out as a white supremacist protest. Mm-hmm. It's their First Amendment; they can do it, but it's still as hate speech. So the next day, everyone else came around. They're like, "Hey, look, we don't want you in our city. Please get out." As a protest, turned violent. People died. People got injured, and the president got on the next day and said there's fine people on both sides. And everybody that's fairly sane, you heard he just called some white supremacists fine people. Whereas other people, they will watch another news article and be like, well, they took it out of context. What he really meant was this, or he's not saying that. And you're just getting two sides of the story where one group of people feel like they're being told the truth, and the other group of people feel like, well, no, it's the fake news. They're just biased. They're leftist, liberal snowflakes. Blah, blah, blah. It's just like you're getting this rift now, and it's being propelled by the media, but it's coming from a source where this divide is coming from. And it's now you're just really seeing it head on. Whereas before it was kind of muddled. Like you could kind of get like little hints there. Like I said, it would be numbers flip-flopped, or you hear other people's perspective on things. But now you're just getting a completely different narrative on the exact same story. And that's where I think that's where the divide is coming from the most.
Sana?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if you guys have seen the movie Vice with Dick Cheney. Yeah, so I think that does an accurate depiction of really where that began and how easy it is to take things out of context, really make something clickbait or make it from your perspective. And I think the next step is an objective media source. Again, just focusing on exposing scandals, exposing corruption rather than point of view news reporting. So you're right. I think but there is a divide, I think, in the country. And if you look at just polling and how people voted, it's almost split evenly in every state. And I think that's largely due to not really knowing what is true and what side to believe. And when I talk to people, I think sometimes they're really just voting off of one opinion or one view. So they're really passionate about maybe guns. So maybe that's what they're voting about. They're really worried about taxes. So they're only voting towards that. So I think there is a divide. I don't think it should be overlooked, but I don't think it's really as objective. It is very based off of what you've heard and your experience. So that's where you're leaning. And I think conversations like this just can help amend that as well.
What's the remedy for this situation that we have found ourselves in?
Well, I think you and I had talked about it a little bit before the podcast. I think there's a lot of corruption just within the Senate and the House. If you look at how much they're being funded by, big pharma, by just outside forces, you can actually track that money. And there's always the same people within each policy conversation that are blocking the things. And then you go to look at who they're being funded by, and you know exactly why, right? And so that they're the same people that then go to the news and say, well, so-and-so didn't want to back my whatever.
Right.
So I think that first step is just putting limits on how much they can be funded. I really do like some of those grassroots funding options that you've seen, because I think they speak more to the interests of the people in their district and what they're looking for rather than, personal interest. So I think that's probably the first step before you can amend the media, because I think there's different issues there around regulation, what they can say, who's backing them. But I think that's probably the first step, is just bring the power back to the people.
Theo?
I was just thinking just now. You guys remember Superman, whether it's the movie or the comic series, cartoon series. The Daily Planet, the owner or the head editor of Daily Planet, I forgot his name. He had the white streak with the gray hair.
Mm-hmm.
That charisma, that attitude, that perspective on telling a story is what I'm reminded of every time I turn on the news, honestly. If you look at how the election went, you could have gone to MSNBC, ABC, CNN. I guarantee you would not have been able to match up accurately who was projected above who in the election. I'm like, so this is the news we get. This is what they expect us to believe, yet there's so many of them telling different stories. Oh, wait, go to their websites. ABC had Biden projected by this much and Trump projected by this much overall. And then you go to their website and it was like not accurate at all. It was like 30% lower for both candidates. I'm like, what is going on? I mean, I know people are still trying to figure out who really won or whether a state really did get their official totals in or most of them are not. And I get that. But when it comes to telling an accurate story, it seems like that's not happening. It seems like our media sources are playing a big game of telephone, where the media starts off with the call and they throw it out to send out the message to all Americans. And by the time it gets to us little men and women, we're like, wait, we're at war with Republicans, or wait, we're at war with Democrats. That's not even what's really going on. But you would think it is, because it's like almost everybody, like the media wants to portray the Republicans and Democrats as enemies all the time. And it's gotten worse over the years. I mean, I've only been alive 27 years, but correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, something's got to give. I mean, you like Sana was saying, you're going to have to limit the involvement, or not the involvement. Well, yeah, the involvement of the media backing certain candidates for office, or even politicians that are already in office, and how much funding they can receive and what sources they're receiving that funding from. Right. Trump, I always question where he received this funding from, even though he was like some multi-billionaire or whatever you want to call him. But I mean, I was like, so how do you respectfully say, I don't want your money, but then again, I can't use my own money? Like, how do you decipher, what, I mean, I'm not even going to talk about that really. Let's just skip that. Let's act like I didn't even say that. But anyway, yeah, that's my 2 cents on it. I mean, it's a big game of telephone, honestly, to me, my perspective.
And just to piggyback off of what you're saying, just not only is it just with politics, it's with everyday crime as well. It's like you will see, like you'll see how they'll portray certain incidents. Like if like a house was robbed, they will portray the person that did it in a certain light. But if another tragedy happened and it happened to be of another race, they put them in a different light as well. So they're toying with us with not politics, it's with racial issues. Now, I understand that, racism is a huge thing in this country, and it has been, but that we're not helping ourselves out when anytime that you see like someone that had a mental breakdown with the cops, they're one race or another, they're getting treated a different way. And I'm getting tired of seeing all of these people get shot on primetime news, Twitter, and I'm tired of seeing other people get carried away in handcuffs when they do these major, massive crimes. Like I'm tired. One, I'm tired of just seeing it in general, and two, I'm tired of seeing how they will spin the narrative, or they'll pick a certain picture.
Right.
Person. So like, if it's a first-time offense, or if it's something that is complete, or if someone actually got killed, they'll put up their mugshot.
Mm-hmm.
If it's the person that killed their family, they'll put a picture of the family being all happy and loving together.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like manipulation, kind of.
Exactly.
Like manipulating us, yeah.
Exactly. So there, do you need to, one, you're also digging into politics and the candidates and the politicians. You need to also dig into the news media and figure out what their actual agendas are that they're trying to preach to the American people.
Right. But I'll piggyback off what you said, Devin, because I think that's what you said was really really genuine and really, an utmost importance for us as Americans. It's just to figure out what's the truth. Like there's no point of causing division or saying I'll put this one picture up and spin it one way and another news outlet does the same thing, but it's something else. Like some black man robs a house, it's mainstream news, and down the street a white guy robs a house, does the same thing, and that doesn't get all the views or the audience that it should compared to the other one. But another thing Sana brought up was the politicians. Like, we need to figure out where they're getting their money from. What are they doing in politics to help benefit us as American people? Because entities like Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff and Chuck Schumer, all these people have been in politics for so long. They're so keen on we're going to fix America. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Then when you look at their districts they're terrible. Like, they're poorly ran. Like, there's crime, the crime's up, and there's homeless people. There's people doing drugs on the street. It's just like, well, if you're saying all this stuff and you're promising the American people an American dream per se, like what do you have to bring to the table? Because you've been in politics for so long and you're pocketing all this money over time. Nothing's changing. So I think what you guys are saying is actually probably the major issue in government right now is corruption in the politicians we have now, because they've been in for so long. Like, what exactly are they doing to help us? So I think that's a big thing. And also the media is whether we can trust it or not, as from a bipartisan perspective, is to kind of see what we see on the news, is it true or not? Because we don't know, because there's always a mix up between different outlets, and there's different constituents that always kind of mix up what the actual objective reality is of what we're seeing on the television or on our phones. So I think that's a really big thing for us, as even if we have different opinions or perspectives, we want to know the truth regardless of what it is. You know what I mean? Because that's really the most important thing, is we have to know what's going on so we know what to do to fix it. So